There are books that entertain, books that inform, and then there are books that reach into your soul and rearrange the furniture. Man's Search for Meaning is one of those rare books. It's not something you just read. It's something you survive alongside the author. You bleed with him. You reflect. You pause. And by the end of it, you're not quite the same person anymore. It's like sitting with someone who's lived through the darkest horrors imaginable, and instead of breaking down, they tell you, you still have a choice. So today, I'm not just reviewing this book. I'm sharing what it taught me about purpose, suffering, and how to keep going when life feels utterly meaningless. Let's talk about Viktor Frankl and the inner fire that no concentration camp could extinguish. Before diving into the lessons, you've got to understand who Frankl was. He wasn't just some philosopher writing from a cozy apartment. He was a Jewish psychiatrist who lived through 4 Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He lost his pregnant wife, his parents, his brother, everything. And yet, somehow, he emerged from that hell not with hatred, not with bitterness, but with a quiet and powerful truth. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Let that sink in. We live in a time where people feel hopeless because their job sucks, or they got ghosted, or their bank account's low. And don't get me wrong, that pain is real. But Frankl saw people starve, freeze, and get beaten to death for a piece of bread. And still, he believed life was worth living. What gave him that strength? That spark? That's what this book is about. Frankl called it the existential vacuum, that gnawing emptiness we all feel when life becomes just about surviving, consuming, scrolling, repeating. Sound familiar? You wake up, check your phone, go to work, go home, binge something, sleep, repeat. You're not really living, you're avoiding death. And eventually, a voice inside starts whispering, "What's the point of all this?" Frankl didn't ignore that voice. He leaned into it, and what he found is that the deepest human need isn't happiness, it's meaning, purpose. He wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how." Let me say that again. Those who have a why to live can bear with almost any how. You could be in pain, grieving, broke, lost. But if you have a why, a reason to keep going, something shifts. You stop being a victim. You become a survivor, a seeker, a creator of meaning, no matter what's happening around you. Frankl's first-hand account of life in the camps is brutal. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. The starvation, the cold, the humiliation, people walking barefoot in snow, getting beaten for stepping out of line, watching others die daily, smelling the smoke from crematoriums. The horror isn't just physical, it's psychological. It's the slow eroding of your identity, your dignity, your will. But here's the thing, not everyone gave in. Frankl watched people who, despite having nothing, still chose to share crust of bread. People who comforted others, even when they were dying. And he realized something that changed the way I look at humanity. There are only 2 races of people, the decent and the indecent. Not Jews or Germans, not rich or poor, not male or female, just decent and indecent. That's it. And decency is a choice. Even in Auschwitz, even when everything is stripped away, you still have that last freedom. The freedom to choose your attitude. The freedom to respond with courage, compassion, or faith. Nobody can take that from you. It hit me hard, because most of us live like victims when we're actually holding the steering wheel the whole time. We say, I can't be happy until they treat me better, until I get that job, until life is easier. But Frankl says no. You always have the freedom to choose your response, even in hell. One of the deepest lessons I took from this book is that meaning isn't something you find like buried treasure. It's something you create in the face of life's questions. Frankl breaks it down into 3 main ways we can create meaning. First, by doing a deed or creating something, work, art, contribution. Second, by experiencing something or someone deeply, love, nature, beauty. And third, by the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering, choosing how we suffer. It's that last one that, honestly, cracks something open in you. Because it's not about glorifying pain. It's about transcending it, making your suffering into a message, a legacy, a story that might help someone else one day. Frankl says, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. So you lost someone, or you feel empty, or you went through something that shattered you. That's real. But the question now is, what do you do with that pain? Do you let it rot inside you, or do you transform it into something that outlives you? That choice is where meaning is born. Frankl said something that still echoes in my mind. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Now think about that. Really sit with it. You can lose your home, your family, your health, even your future. But what you do with that loss, that internal decision, is yours, always. In the camps, some men chose cruelty, some betrayed others for a scrap of bread, but some found a way to rise above the filth. Not because they were stronger physically, but because they had something to live for, a picture in their mind, a person they loved, a belief that their suffering had a purpose. One story Frankl shares shook me deeply. It's about a fellow prisoner who had lost hope. He confided in Frankl that he dreamed he would be liberated on a specific date. That date came and went. No liberation. And the man died, not from a beating or hunger, but from a kind of spiritual death. He lost hope, and his body followed. That's how powerful our minds are. That's how real despair is. It's not just in your head, it manifests in your cells. It drains your life force. So Frankl challenges us, when we're in pain, can we find a purpose? Can we cling to a future that pulls us forward, even if it's far away? Because meaning for him was more than a philosophy. It was survival. Frankl flips the script on everything we've been taught. Most people spend their lives asking, what can I get from life? But Frankl says, what does life expect from me? That shift, it changes the game. Instead of sitting around waiting for life to bless you with purpose, you realize life is asking you for a response. Every situation is a question, every hardship is a riddle, and your answer is the way you live. When you lose someone, life asks, how will you honor them now? When you're broke and down, life asks, what truth will you hold on to? When you feel nothing makes sense, life whispers, can you still choose dignity? Frankl compares this to being in the spotlight on a stage. The pressure is on, but the moment is yours. You can improvise. You can breathe meaning into the void. You're not powerless. You're a participant. This isn't wishful thinking. It's spiritual responsibility. And honestly, that kind of self-responsibility can feel heavy at first. But it's also the most liberating thing there is. Because suddenly, you don't have to wait for the world to give you permission. You become the meaning maker. Frankl writes something in this book that, honestly, had me just staring at the wall for a while. He says, the salvation of man is through love and in love. That's it. Not money, not success, not status, but love. And, you know, this isn't the fluffy Instagram quote, kind of love. It's the kind of love that survives war, that outlasts suffering, that becomes a guiding light when everything else fades. Frankl describes walking through the camp, freezing, starving, dragging his feet, and what kept him going wasn't food or escape. It was the memory of his wife. He didn't even know if she was alive, but her image, her presence in his mind gave him strength. He says, I understood how a man who has nothing left in this world still may know bliss, be it only for a brief moment in the contemplation of his beloved. That hit me hard. We chase all these things, followers, dollars, goals, but when everything's stripped away, it's love that remains. The love we give, the love we remember, the love we carry. So if you're looking for meaning, maybe it's not in achieving more. Maybe it's in loving better, deeper, with more presence. One of the boldest ideas in this book is that suffering isn't the enemy. Meaninglessness is. Suffering, Frankl says, is like gas filling a room. It expands to occupy the space, but if we give it form, if we shape it with meaning, it stops being just pain. It becomes sacrifice, growth, awakening. That doesn't mean we go looking for pain. That's masochism. But when pain finds us, and honestly, it will, we're invited to respond, to give it direction, to make it carry something more than just agony. It's why people survive tragedies and end up helping others. Why someone who's been through the worst can become a light for others in the dark. Why someone who's lost everything still wakes up, still shows up, still offers love. That is sacred, because it's the birth of a deeper human being. Frankl says, in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. So the next time you feel broken, ask yourself, can I choose to grow from this? Can I let this sharpen me instead of shatter me? That shift might be the most courageous act of your life. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for meaning. That's what Frankl teaches. Your meaning might be found in creating music, raising a child, starting over, serving others, healing yourself, loving someone with everything you've got. And sometimes it's not about what you do at all. It's about how you carry what's been done to you. That's your story. That's your message. You don't have to be rich, famous, or perfect to live meaningfully. You just have to be willing to look life in the eye and say, I will not waste this. I will not numb this. I will meet this pain with purpose. That is strength. That is freedom. That is what Frankl gave us. You ever notice how the more we chase happiness, the more it slips through our fingers? Frankl puts it bluntly, don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you are going to miss it. Success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think of it. That line, it dismantled the whole mindset I was raised in. We're told to chase goals, build a personal brand, optimize, monetize. But Frankl, he's saying, stop aiming at the thing, aim at meaning, aim at purpose, and the other stuff will follow. The moments I felt most alive weren't the moments I was crushing it on paper. It was when I was locked into something that mattered, giving, sharing, being of use. It's not about ego, it's about offering yourself fully to something real. We don't find purpose by chasing it. We fall into it by giving ourselves away to something bigger than our own ambition. We live in a dopamine world. Scroll, swipe, click, consume, repeat, and yet so many people still feel empty, anxious, lost. Frankl saw this coming decades ago. He warned of the existential vacuum, a sense of inner emptiness that creeps in when life loses its depth. And instead of dealing with it, most of us distract ourselves to death. He writes, ever more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. That line hit me like a punch to the chest. We don't lack comfort. We lack direction and meaning. It's often found in the very places we avoid: sacrifice, service, silence, even suffering. Meaning asks more from you than pleasure does. But what it gives you in return is a groundedness nothing else can replace. So, yeah, you could binge a series to avoid your thoughts. Or you could sit with them, face them, turn them into a path. That's what Frankl is offering. Not easy comfort, but real depth. There's this myth in psychology that we're all just chasing pleasure or control. Freud said we're driven by the will to pleasure. Nietzsche said it's the will to power. Frankl says they both missed the mark. He believed the deepest drive in us is the will to meaning. And that changed how I look at everything. Because pleasure fades, power corrupts. But meaning sustains. Think about it. People have gone through unthinkable trauma and still emerged with purpose. Others have had all the power in the world and still taken their own lives. What makes the difference? Frankl writes, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for some goal worthy of him. That line reframed my struggles. Instead of asking how to avoid tension, I started asking, what's worth the struggle? We don't need less tension. We need better tension. The kind that stretches you, challenges you, grows you. One of the most haunting sections of the book is when Frankl describes how even in the camps, surrounded by death and dehumanization, some men still held on to their dignity. They refused to betray others. They whispered prayers. They consoled the broken. Not because it made sense, but because it meant something. Frankl saw two types of people, the decent and the indecent. It wasn't about who they were before the camps. It was about who they chose to be in hell. And that choice, that is what makes us human. We don't talk about dignity much anymore. It's not sexy. It doesn't trend. But in the darkest hour, dignity is your spine, your anchor, your last stand when everything else is stripped away. And the truth is, we all have that choice. Even today. Even now. You can collapse or you can carry yourself like your soul still matters. We keep thinking meaning has to be some grand, dramatic purpose, like curing cancer or starting a global movement. But Frankl shows us that meaning can also be in a moment, in a glance, a kind word, a decision to not complain, a moment where you see beauty in something small, even while carrying pain. He talks about prisoners finding meaning in a single sunset, or in a memory of someone they loved, or in just choosing silence over anger. And I felt that. There have been days where I was low, like really low, and then something tiny cracked the numbness, a voice, a smell, a sentence, and suddenly I was back, present, alive. Don't underestimate the sacredness of the small, that quiet coffee in the morning, that deep breath before reacting, that one message to a friend who's hurting. That is meaning. In the West, we're obsessed with freedom. I can do whatever I want. But Frankl reminds us that freedom without responsibility is meaningless. He said, if America has the Statue of Liberty on one coast, it should have a Statue of Responsibility on the other. Because meaning isn't found in what you're allowed to do. It's found in what you choose to take ownership of. Who are you responsible for? What pain are you willing to carry? What truth are you committed to living, regardless of what the world's doing? Freedom says I can, responsibility says I must, and between the two, that's where purpose lives. We don't need more hacks, more distractions, more pleasure. What we need is to stop, to go inward, to ask the deeper question, what is life asking of me, right here, right now? Frankl's answer wasn't a theory. It was a life lived in the fire, a life that didn't run from pain, but transformed it into meaning. And that's what we're here to do too. If you're going through something hard right now, something you can't explain to others, something you're ashamed of, or tired of reliving, I want you to hear this. Your suffering is not a sign that you're weak. Frankl flips the whole narrative. He teaches that suffering, when it's unavoidable, is not only a part of life, it's a portal, a sacred ground, the place where transformation begins. In the camps, Frankl watched men face daily torture, humiliation, and despair. And yet, he witnessed that the ones who could give meaning to their pain, even something as small as imagining themselves teaching others what they learned from it, those were the ones who made it through. It wasn't about optimism. It wasn't about pretending everything was fine. It was about facing the rawness of life and still saying, I will not go numb. I will not give up. I will use this. Pain without purpose is poison. But pain with purpose, that's power. One of the quiet miracles of this book is how Frankl never loses faith in the human spirit, even after watching cruelty on a scale most of us can't imagine. He didn't come out of it hating mankind. He came out of it believing in us more, because he saw what we're capable of. Not just the darkness, but the light. He saw prisoners share their last piece of bread. He saw men whisper prayers under their breath. He saw people choose dignity, even when their dignity was being stripped. And he realized the soul is deeper than the body. There's something in us that can't be caged, beaten, or starved. A part of us that can still choose, even when everything else is taken. That idea, it humbles me. Because we often say, I couldn't survive that. But what Frankl is saying is, you don't know what you're capable of until life calls you deeper. And when it does, something ancient awakens in you, something eternal. The human spirit, when tested, expands. Frankl never tells us to just be positive. In fact, he saw where that kind of false hope can be deadly. He writes about prisoners who clung to the belief they'd be freed by Christmas, and when that didn't happen, they died. Not from sickness, they died from hopelessness. So this isn't about fake positivity. This is about real inner strength. Hope isn't blind optimism. It's the decision to respond with meaning, even in the face of despair. It's choosing to believe that what you're going through can lead somewhere, even if you don't see the path yet. Frankl believed that meaning is more stable than mood. Moods change, but meaning anchors you. And in a world obsessed with feeling good all the time, Frankl invites us to ask something deeper. Is my life meaningful even when it hurts? If you can say yes to that, even whisper it, then you've already won a battle most people never fight. Frankl warned about something he called the existential vacuum, and I believe it's more alive now than ever before. It's that feeling of emptiness when the distractions wear off, when the dopamine hits fade, when you're left staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., just wondering why none of this feels fulfilling. He saw this in his time already. The boredom, the lack of direction, the quiet desperation. But in today's world of instant gratification, scrolling, and endless noise, it's louder than ever. We're overdosing on stimulation, but starving for meaning. Frankl's answer wasn't to escape it, but to face it, to ask, what unique meaning can I give to my life that no one else can? It could be raising a child with love, starting a project that helps others, living with integrity when no one's watching, or, simply deciding to carry your pain in a way that inspires someone else. The vacuum doesn't get filled by comfort. It gets filled by commitment to something real, something that costs you something that stretches you. That's where the depth lives. One of the deepest questions Frankl leaves us with is this: can you suffer well? Not glamorize it, not run from it, but bear it, with grace, with awareness, with meaning. That doesn't mean you don't cry. It doesn't mean you don't fall apart sometimes. Frankl fell apart. He broke. He mourned. He questioned. But through it all, he held on to one unshakable truth, that how you carry your suffering becomes your legacy. We live in a time that sees suffering as failure. If you're sad, something's wrong. If you're lonely, you're broken. If you feel lost, you're behind. But maybe those are just invitations to become something more, to grow your soul, to build your inner world. Frankl doesn't say it's easy. He says it's necessary, because suffering without meaning crushes you, but suffering with meaning builds you into someone unshakable, someone who doesn't just survive, but lives with depth, intention, and heart. If there's one thread that runs through every page of man's search for meaning, it's this: your life is not random. It is a message, not just in your triumphs, but in your struggles, in your losses, in your comebacks. Frankl reminds us that we don't need ideal circumstances to live meaningful lives. We just need to respond well to the circumstances we're given. Every day, we are answering life's questions with the way we live. And that answer, that becomes your story. So don't wait until everything's perfect. Don't wait until the pain goes away. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start now. Start small. Start by saying, even if I don't know why this is happening, I will choose to live like it means something. That choice is power. That choice is freedom. That choice is meaning. There's this moment in the book where Frankl describes a man in the camps who had completely given up. He had no more hope. He stopped eating, stopped talking, laid down and waited to die. And what struck me wasn't just the despair, it was the pattern, because Frankl saw it again and again. The moment someone lost their why, their body followed. They weren't just starving for calories, they were starving for meaning. That's the haunting reality Frankl reveals. When life becomes nothing more than pain without purpose, we collapse, not always physically, but spiritually. So if you're in that dark place right now, if your life feels like a fog, if you wake up with that, what's the point ache in your chest? I'm not here to give you platitudes, but I am here to tell you, the moment you find a why, you begin to rise again. That why doesn't have to be massive. It can be a person, a goal, a vow to turn your pain into light for someone else. It can even just be the decision to live well despite it all. But once you find it, once you connect to that deeper why, something shifts. You stop just surviving. You start becoming. Frankl lost everything. His home, his career, his family, even the manuscript of his life's work. Gone, burned, stripped away, and still he rebuilt. He didn't pretend the past hadn't happened, but he also didn't let it define what came next. He reminds us that while trauma shapes us, it doesn't own us. And that's a message we desperately need today. We live in a time where it's easy to over-identify with our wounds, to make our pain our personality. But Frankl says, yes, your past matters, but your response matters more. You get to choose who you become after the pain. You get to rewrite your narrative. You get to walk out of the ashes with something sacred in your hands. Wisdom, strength, compassion. Your scars don't make you broken. They make you someone who knows, someone who's earned their voice. So carry your story like a sword, not a shackle. The world doesn't come with pre-installed purpose. It's not delivered to you like a package. Meaning isn't given, it's created. That's Frankl's boldest insight. Life doesn't owe you clarity, but you owe yourself the responsibility of choosing how you respond to the confusion. We are meaning makers, and you can prove that to yourself at any moment by deciding what this pain, this silence, this season is for. Ask yourself, what lesson am I being asked to learn here? Who can I help one day because of this? What kind of strength is being forged in me right now? You're not at the mercy of chaos. You are a participant, a co-creator. Even when you're powerless over what's happening, you're never powerless over how you choose to see it. If this book teaches anything, it's that the human spirit is deeper than the body, bigger than the mind, and stronger than circumstance. Frankl saw people endure the unthinkable and still find the strength to sing, to pray, to love, to lead. He saw people die with dignity, and he saw others, even in freedom, fall apart from meaninglessness. That contrast stuck with me because it shows us that suffering isn't the thing that breaks us. Emptiness is. Lack of direction is. When you're connected to something bigger than your own comfort, you develop a kind of internal fire, a compass, a calm power that doesn't depend on everything going right. You realize that even if life gets brutal, you still get to decide how you live it. That kind of power, it's not loud. It's quiet, subtle, but unshakable. I won't lie, this book didn't just teach me something, it humbled me. It made me realize how often I complain when I'm still surrounded by comfort. It made me see how much energy I waste fighting reality instead of choosing a meaningful response. It reminded me that I don't have to wait for a perfect life to live a powerful one, and that my suffering isn't something I need to hide. It's something I can transform. It also reminded me that love, real, soul-level love, isn't limited by time or distance or even death. Frankl's memory of his wife gave him strength when everything else was gone. So now, when I'm facing something hard, when I feel empty or stuck, I come back to this one question. What's the why behind this how? That question has saved me more than once. Let's bring it back to you. You might not be in a concentration camp, but you might be stuck in your own kind of prison, a job that drains you, a relationship that confuses you, a silence that scares you, a sense of aimlessness. Here's how you can begin right now to apply Frankl's wisdom. First, ask yourself, what is life asking of me today? Not what you want from life, but what life wants from you. Next, find meaning in one small thing, a conversation, a gesture, a piece of music, just one thing that makes this moment worth being in. Then, turn your suffering into service. If you've been through hell, help someone else who's still walking through the fire. Stop chasing happiness, start chasing purpose. Let happiness be the result, not the aim. And choose your response, always, in every situation, because that's the one thing no one can take from you. Frankl said it best, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That's your superpower. Viktor Frankl didn't write this book to impress anyone. He didn't write it to sell copies or go viral. He wrote it because he had to. Because what he witnessed was too important to keep to himself. And that, to me, is what makes his legacy eternal. He turned horror into wisdom, loss into love, suffering into service. And now, that legacy is in your hands. This isn't just a book you read. It's a book you live. A mirror you hold up to your own life and ask, am I responding to life with purpose? Or am I waiting for life to hand me one? And if you don't like your answer, good. Because that means you're alive. It means your soul is stirring. And it means you're ready to step into something deeper. If this video spoke to you, if this book left a mark on your heart like it did on mine, I hope you carry this message forward, not just for yourself, but for the people around you who are still looking for their why. Be the person who chooses meaning. Be the one who remembers that no matter how dark it gets, there is always a way to respond with purpose. If Viktor Frankl could find meaning in Auschwitz, you and I can find meaning right here, right now. Don't wait. Live like your life matters, because it does. And if no one's told you today, you're still here for a reason. This has been my review of the unbelievably powerful Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. If you got something out of this, share it with someone who might need it. And if you're ready to live more purposefully, hit that subscribe button. Sending lots of love to you until next time.